Final hour overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Frankie Corrado, Jason Strudwick.
Is it chilly in
the tone
where you are,
there.
Struddy? A little cold?
Yeah, you know what? I got the AC rocking. You know, I don't cheap out, and a little fresh in here. So I slipped onto something. I didn't know what to put on. I know you guys like when I wear tight shirts, but I don't want to get frostbite in here.
That's
Okay.
hour 3, Struddy. You know, hour 3, just setting the mood a little bit. Overdrive
Cover
after
it up.
dark. Yeah.
A little bit
Covering
sexier.
it up in hour 3.
Sexier tone.
Yeah, sleek.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen to that song. Did you suggest that song? Like that?
No.
That was a tone setter right there.
Who picks
I like
the
it.
music? That was not what I expected. That's kind of like WKRP Cincinnati after midnight.
I think it's Doogie's girlfriend. I think she submitted like a Spotify
Did she?
playlist, and now Doogie's just playing all his girlfriend's favorite songs.
Well, Doogie's got carte blanche, man. We've had these discussions before. He plays whatever he wants, and there are times where he'll play stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea why you would conclude that's the song, but it's Doogie's call. Doogie's on a mission, and
Guarantee
Doogie's making
Doogie's
things
taking
happen.
requests. He's taking requests from
Could
like
be.
his buddies, his girlfriend.
Oh.
Guaranteed it. Yeah.
Does he ever dig into the 80s playlist? Because that's where you really kick it up a notch. Any party I've ever been to, you drop a couple 80s beats, people go nuts. Nuts. That and ABBA, really.
Okay.
What are
All
we
right.
talking? What kind of 80s beats are we talking?
I mean, I know you guys love Hall & Oates, right? Like, I love Private Eyes. I think you get Private Eyes and get the clap. The clap is what it's all about.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe, listen, I don't know. I can't speak for Doogie, but we'll see. Maybe he will grant you that wish. And maybe we can play some Niall Horan. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. He's in
Having a rough
Toronto. He's
go.
got
Big fan.
Yeah, I know his name's Niall. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But he's in Toronto for a gig tonight, and he had to walk. God forbid he had to walk.
What?
Yeah, he had to walk, I guess, to Scotiabank because the traffic is so bad in Toronto. So, yeah, I don't know. Like,
Hold on a sec. Did he have to abandon his vehicle on the road and walk, or did he just walk from the hotel?
Has
you know
to
what
be
I mean?
the case. Has to be, right? No, like likely he's probably staying in Yorkville. He's probably on his way down University, although that looks like it's under the QEW. So,
Good pace, too. Look at the pace he's got.
That's down on the lakeshore. Yeah, I
he
guess he's at
probably-
Scotiabank.
He
Yeah,
probably
so-
had to abandon his wheels and walk, or else he was never going to make it there.
Yep, he must have. And
Pretty
that's
casual.
probably
He's like,
what
does he have a
happened.
suit on?
No, I know. Like, what are we doing here, man? He's walking underground. So where's he parking? Is he parking in Matthews' spot, Scotty Barnes? I don't know where he's parking, but that looked as if he possibly said screw it. And he wouldn't be the first one. Like, the Lakeshore is I know the Gardner's unbearable right now, and because it's unbearable, there's so many more people taking the Lakeshore. And the Lakeshore is always nasty, but it is so annoying to try to get your way through there. And if there's like construction on a lane, there's always like one middle lane that's shut down for some reason. And he probably was in the car and just said, screw it, get me out of here.
He wouldn't have made it. He would not have made his show. Like, it's 6 o'clock. He's probably on. He's got an opening act. What time's he coming on? 8:30?
Yeah, probably
wouldn't have
sound
made it.
check in the afternoon,
Yeah.
right? Probably had to be there for that. And I don't know, they don't make them like they used to. Like rock stars on the path. You talk about the 80s. You think Guns N' Roses would be walking down the lakeshore? No chance. They'd say, screw it, we're going home.
What would they do? Drive on the side? Oh, they would just say they're going home?
Yeah.
Walk a straight line. I can't. Why isn't he carrying a bag? Like, he doesn't have a bag? Like, doesn't he need to change of clothes? Because that looks pretty casual. He kind of looks like O-Dog when he's going to walk the cat. Like, just an awkward pair of shorts and a white T-shirt, right? You got to give a little bit more than that.
Yeah, he was inspired by the O-Dog and O-Dog's world-famous cat walks, which he does a lot. He's the only guy I know that walks his cats and then gets rattled when they run away. You know, like the cat's like, I'm domesticated, dude. I'm not supposed to be outside the house, but sure, you know, you're going to let me out of here. I'm gone. You know, you can't have it both ways.
I had a unique experience. I was dropping my son off at a friend's. I've been there, but I didn't notice it. I was walking to the front door. I tripped on something. I'm like, what is this? And I heard something kind of squeal. And so I give it a pretty good push, not intentionally. It was a cat on a leash. It was gone in front of it. I didn't know it was there. The poor cat went for a bit of a flight, and it wasn't intentional, obviously. The cat probably lost a life there. I've never seen a cat on a leash outside a house. I've been to lots of houses, right? I'm a big
Toronto,
social guy.
Come to Toronto. You'll see that's standard procedure here.
What?
Man. Well, that's
Why
what the
don't-
O-Dog does. Like,
They don't want
People
that.
let
Like,
their
this was
cats
just
out.
sitting there.
yeah.
Don't
That's
in
weird.
your neighborhood, do you guys have people that just they open the door and the cat goes, and it could be gone for a couple hours or a couple days, and then it comes back. I had that, like my neighbor had that, and I'm coming home one night, like I had just moved into the house maybe a year ago or a year prior to this, and I'm coming home from SportsCenter one night. It's like 1:30, 2 a.m. I'm not paying attention, and the cat's on my front steps, and I would have jumped like 3 feet in the air, and I probably woke the neighbors. This thing scared the bejesus out of me.
I know, that
it's
throws
a cat.
me off, man.
It's not a panther.
But you don't,
what are you scared of?
See it, Struddy. All of a sudden, you look up and there's a cat, and it's got the eyes, and
How
it's
big's
like
this cat? What are you scared of? It's not like it's a killer lion sitting there.
It's not about the cat. It's just surprising. You don't expect it.
How dangerous is your neighborhood? You're worried
I
about
hope
that.
not too dangerous, Struddy.
I came home one night. There was a porcupine walking across my driveway. I gave it the respect it was due. I parked on the street. I didn't get startled. Didn't startle. I saw it coming. But I'm like Grizzly Adams, right? I see the animals. I understand.
Right. You're one with the
But a
You're
cat.
like Ace Ventura. Yeah. Well,
Like,
a cat. I understand what Frankie's saying. It's startling if it's on your porch. You know, you're not paying attention. You're probably looking at your phone.
It's a cat. Are you startled when you walk into someone's house and you see an aquarium on the side?
The thing is, I would see the aquarium coming from a mile away.
What is that?
Hayes is right. I'm like checking my phone. I'm all disheveled. I'm half asleep. I look up at my stairs, and there's the cat, and it's like hissing at me.
That would bother me. Because, get the hell out of here. Why are you out of the house?
Is that a Siamese fighting fish you have there? Those look dangerous.
That is reasonable, but that is also, that's behind glass. And like you said, Frank, like someone who's probably, anyone that has an aquarium in their house, they're so obnoxious about that. They're gonna tell you about it before you even get there. No one has an aquarium without letting the whole world know, I have an aquarium.
Does Struddy have an aquarium? Do you have one?
I don't.
I don't. No,
too much work, man. I'm lazy. I don't want that.
Much. I'm not talking about like a fishbowl. Like we're talking, like I mentioned Ace Ventura when he goes to that guy's house. Like that's an aquarium, like a full sidewall. Yeah, like that. If you have that and that's your dedication, you're bothering people with information on your aquarium that nobody cares about, but you're, I guess, proud of it. But I hear what you're saying, Frank. That's the city. Like I was the same way coming home from like the bars and stuff. There'd be raccoons, like just a standoff with a raccoon. You're like, how is this going to work? Like, what are we doing here?
At least the raccoon has a little bit of danger element. It's got the claws.
Yes.
It's got the bandana around its eyes.
God, I hate raccoons so much.
Don't you get bears out there, Struddy? Like, if you come home late, isn't there a chance there's a bear in your driveway?
No. They will come up. I've had like some other animals, like a moose down not too far from us, a deer all the time.
Dude,
but
a moose is huge.
There's a
Are you
moose.
kidding me?
Yeah. What would you do if there was a moose in between you and your front door, Strud?
I had a girlfriend one time. We went camping, and I woke up one morning in the tent, and she's like, I think she'd gone to the bathroom, and she comes back in. There's a moose outside. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? I'm not a hunter. So I just poked my head out and. Trying to the sound they make to try to scare it away.
Make a mating sound. That's going to help.
There's nothing to do. I don't know what to do. I know they can be quite angry, quite cantankerous. Just like that cat on your porch.
Yeah, exactly. In Edmonton, they have moose. Out here, we got cats. They're both equally dangerous.
The morals of an alley cat.
That's what you got to watch out for, man. You got to watch out for those alley cats.
I don't know if you remember where that's from.
I don't really remember that.
That's from The Debate.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
I love that. Okay, you're right. I do remember that now.
He goes, debating someone with the morals of an alley cat.
The morals of an alley cat. That's right. Yeah, that line didn't land that much. It actually lands better with you, Frank, in the way that you're applying it. But yeah, listen, I never understood that. Why get a cat and just say it's gone for like 3 weeks? And they don't even lose sleep over it. You're just like, cat's gone. I don't know. It'll come back when it comes back.
You're a part-timer. You're a part-time animal owner if you have a cat. That's what it is. A dog needs your attention every day. You got to walk the dog. I have a dog. I walk the dog, right? I got a nice leash. I act like I'm all cool. Pick up the poop. Even when because some people pretend. They'll bend over and pretend to pick it up.
Yes.
Yeah, I grab it all the time.
Good for you.
Yeah,
so you have to. That's your responsibility. Come on.
That's part of your duty, Struddy. That's part of your duty.
That's right. Got to do it. All right. We're trying to track down Bobby Marks. We'll see if we can get him on. We got Steve Phillips later in the hour.
He's walking his cat.
Yes, he's walking his cat. That's probably exactly what he's doing. Or maybe he's looking at Ottawa. We were talking about the Senators, to start the show. I guess Shane Pinto's agreed to terms on a 2-year deal. So Shane Pinto, who, famously was suspended for gambling infractions last year, really good player. They're going to need him because Josh Norris, I feel for Norris because he's just so injury-riddled all the time, and it happened again this year. I don't know if you can trust Norris in the future. I don't know what they're going to do up the middle of the ice, but Pinto on a 2-year deal, I haven't seen the number yet.
3.75 per year. There you go.
I don't know. Does that seem reasonable to you? I mean,
very reasonable.
Yeah, he's a pretty good player.
I think if he was holding out for more than that, you got to take in and around that $4 million number. You have to. You just got suspended for half a year. You didn't play, and they're giving you a little bridge deal to prove yourself for 2 years. He can cash in later on. He's got to take that deal.
Absolutely.
The second year's $5 million, I think. I think it was 2.5 or something, 2.5, 5. So obviously,
okay.
High QO.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing. If you keep growing that next year in 3 years, you'll make that much more money. So that's Shane Pinto in Ottawa. I don't know what the equivalent of Shane Pinto would be in the NBA, but I guarantee you that guy's not making $3.5 million. Right? The equivalent of Pinto in the NBA is probably making about $22 million. The amount of cash being thrown around is just remarkable. Here's ESPN NBA front office insider Bobby Marks. Do you even keep tabs on the total accumulation of cash anymore, Bobby? The amount of money that's being splashed around the NBA, it's just absurd.
It's interesting though, with the good joining you guys, that it's I've gotten this from a bunch of people today around the league and agents. It's kind of it feels like the middle class has been kind of taken out of all of this. You're right. I mean, there's certainly Anunoby and Siakam, two guys that you guys had up there. Tatum's number is huge. That's a lot of it has to do with the cap rising. But there is a lot of guys out there right now that can't get jobs at what they, DeMar DeRozan and the Miles Bridges, Tyus Jones, where how the rules are right now, it presents certainly a challenge for some of these quality veterans to find homes.
Is that what the NBA intended with this CBA, or is this just something that's caught them off guard, or moreover, I guess the Players Association off guard?
Yeah, the intention was to limit high spending teams like Golden State and the Clippers, two teams that have spent $950 million in luxury tax penalties in the last 4 years, and try to bring more parity. And I understood the intention there, but until you put these rules in place, you really don't know what the outcome is going to be. And I think we've seen it a little bit this offseason. They've been hurt because there was only a 3.5% increase in the salary cap. They're really kind of flattened. It will get better when the new TV money comes in next year. It will grow to about 10% here. So it's been a challenge. I mean, these rules, we're talking apron, right? All these restrictions about the ability to trade for players and what you can add to your roster has really slowed things down here.
Bobby, if we go a little closer to home here in Toronto, they spend some money to lock up some players that are, I guess, part of their core. Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley. If the Raptors kind of get the business that they got done, which is not that much, are they into that 30 to 40 wins next year? Is it lower? Is it higher? Where do you kind of see the Raptors?
I think they're in that 30 to 40 win total. I think. We've seen in the past teams like Utah were kind of in that same position that Utah was after they had traded, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. I mean, they were like a 500 team at the All-Star break, and then you hit the skids, right? You trade away a player or two, and then you really struggle here. So I think if you have this, basically the same roster and that's not guaranteed, I think you're probably in that range. I think there's, some interesting decisions. Certainly, Bruce Brown, they picked up his option. It's a big $23 million, trade asset to move if they want to. But yeah, they're kind of hedging their bets a little bit. They're trying to kind of do what Indiana did a few years ago, where you don't want to bottom out completely. You still want to be competitive, but you want to have kind of the flexibility, to add a player. But I would say this, and I know Raptor fans probably don't want to hear. Probably this upcoming year is the year you want to bottom out. I mean, we're looking at a star-studded, on paper at least, draft class of 5 to 6 impact players that we haven't seen in a long time.
Well, that's where I'm at. And, I personally don't see them being anywhere close to a 500 club. I don't think there's enough talent. I don't think there's enough depth here. And, they'll probably move off players as well at the deadline, which speaks to what you just talked about. Like those last 20 games, you could see a scenario where they're like 4-16. It gets ugly for the worst teams in the NBA down the stretch, as you're aware of. And the lottery, go talk to the Pistons. It's never a guarantee.
Yep.
But I'm with you, Bobby. Like, you got Scotty. Quickly I like, but he's still got to improve. You got RJ. I like RJ, but he's got warts in his game. Like, you got Scotty. You need another guy of that ilk. And I get the impression like he's in the draft, and you got to be patient here. And that's on Messiah and Company to buy into that. And I think they probably realize that's where it's going. They're not going to announce it, nor should they. But I could see this being an ugly year, and as tough as it might be to get through, I think it will benefit the team long term if they finish with a top 3 pick.
No, I agree with you. I mean, roster building is a challenge in itself, and it's not usually in free agency unless you hit some of these margin signings, and hopefully down the road you develop that player. It's the draft. I mean, that's how the 2019 team. I know you had, of course, Kawhi and stuff, but a lot of those guys were, homegrown talent. Guys that you had drafted. You get Kyle, and it's draft and trade. It's not going in. It's we all hang a banner for cap space. Cap space gets you overpriced veterans. Usually, that's usually how it works. And so that's the mindset, is that you have to hit on your picks. And if you don't, then you're basically just kind of treading water.
Bobby, Klay Thompson goes to the Mavericks. Do you think that playing with 2 balls would be enough, or do they have to have 3 balls when they play the game?
Yeah, I thought that was probably the best fit for him. It was between them and the Lakers here. I thought, when you have Luka and Kyrie, I think Klay's going to start at 3. Certainly offensively, they're going to be, it's going to be pretty, high level. I think the biggest concern will be defensively, as far as, with those 3 guys. You lose Derek Jones, you bring in Najee Marshall, who's a nice fit here. But I like the fit in Dallas. It's disappointing how it ends, in Golden State without a contract there.
Does he have a legit, beef, in your opinion, that Draymond's still there? Obviously Steph is going to be there. Steve Kerr, I know that's not cap related, but Steve got his money. Does Klay have a legitimate beef as to the way Golden State handled him on the way out?
I believe that is accurate. Okay. I believe that is very accurate. That there is I would say this. I think there's some hurt feelings from him. And I think you were on his emotions all year about it. I know Richard Jefferson, who covers ESPN for us, said it last night. He said he saw Klay at Christmas time, and the first thing Klay said to him was they got to pay me, and that was in December here. So I think there's some disappointment, and I think there is some beef that those guys got paid. He didn't. There wasn't a contract extended in the off season here. However, I will say this. That without the help of Golden State, he doesn't get to Dallas, right? They had to basically sign and trade him, to get him there, because Dallas wouldn't have been able, any team, they wouldn't have been able to sign him outright.
With Bobby Marks of ESPN. Interesting, roundabout here in Toronto, the way we feel about things, and that 2019 championship, and how Kawhi, he left Toronto to go team up with Paul George in L.A., and now Paul George is leaving Kawhi to go team up with Nick Nurse in Philly. The Raptors fans are taking some solace in that. The fact that the Clippers have just been a mess. Not that the Raptors have been much better, but they do have their titles, something the L.A. Clippers cannot say. What do you make of that fit, PG in Philly, and what might that do in terms of the East and the landscape in the East?
I like it. I mean, listen, Paul was probably the best free agent available outside of, LeBron. LeBron wasn't available here. And I think there's still work to do. I mean, we have Maxey, Paul, and certainly Embiid. That's your big 3 here. But there's some holes with that roster. They need a power forward. They need some front court depth. They need a backup point guard, I would say. So there is still some work to do. But, yeah, I mean, listen, there's Boston, and I think there's everyone else in the Eastern Conference. Everyone else, though, is kind of getting closer when you look at certainly New York and Philadelphia. You never can discount Milwaukee and Indiana gets to a conference final. Certainly the Heat will be there. Orlando, Cleveland. Mitchell goes back to Cleveland here. So I like Paul there. I just, listen, 4 years from now, he's going to be 37 years old making $62 million. But that's a story probably for another day.
Bobby, what's a realistic expectation for Bronny James in LA? Like, even with everything that's going on there, JJ Redick's there now, the head coach, Bronny is in the mix. Like, I don't know, what's a realistic expectation for everything that's going on there with Bronny included in the middle of that?
Yeah, I would be stunned if he plays minutes this year at all. I mean, I think you'll see him more in South Bay, which is their G League team, than with the parent team here. I think he's probably 2 years away from playing somewhat consistent minutes here, and that's depending on what the roster makeup is. I think he's a competitor. I think he can compete at a high level defensively. I think offensively he struggles. He's an undersized two guard that can guard two positions. Usually you want a guy that can guard 3 or 4 positions here. So I think a lot of it's going to be – he had a lost year at USC with the cardiac incident and on a team that was so disorganized and was, certainly did not have a good year. So it was basically – I think this is almost like his freshman year, this upcoming year here, based on everything that happened last year here. So I wouldn't expect him to be much with the parent club playing. You'll see him in Summer League over the next few weeks here, but I think if he's going to make it in this league, he's going to have to make it certainly on the defensive end.
Bobby, always great catching up with you, man. I know it's been a busy time. Thank you for doing this.
Appreciate it. You got it, guys. Thanks.
Bobby Marks, ESPN. That's a reasonable analysis of Bronny, and anyone that gets picked, was it 55th in the draft or 56th in the draft? He's not ready. He's very raw. He shouldn't be in the NBA yet. He could get there, and if he does, sure, he's got a bit of a step forward. But I wonder what's going to happen there with the idea of him and LeBron playing together. I think even if he's with their G League team, at some point he'll come up and play. Like he'll play a game to fulfill, the dream
Prophecy.
of LeBron. Yes, and it'll be like the Cavs are in town. And it's LeBron and Bronny from Akron playing the Cavs.
You got to be careful for the spotlight, right? Because you know that every scribe there, every local beat reporter, they have that story. The Bronny James kind of getting thrust into the limelight, into the spotlight, and failing. That story's already been written, and it's saved in the drafts. And they're just going to change some numbers around because everyone, I think, would be waiting for that. So I think that's something you have to be really careful of, like not force-feeding him into that situation. Yeah,
it's wild because, LeBron is a massive brand. He's maybe the most powerful individual athlete, we've ever seen, just based on the way, player empowerment in the NBA, what he's represented, what he's done, his brand. And yet it feels as if he has more power than the Lakers, and the Lakers are the Lakers. We're not talking Memphis here or something. This is the Lakers. This is the preeminent brand in the NBA. And LeBron is basically telling them how things are going to work. That in and of itself is pretty amazing. And it's not like he's a lifelong Laker. I'm sure they love him there, but this guy will be Cleveland first. I think Miami second, even more than the Lakers, because of the decision to go there. He won his first championship there. He'll be a Laker third in the eyes of many people in the NBA, yet he's kind of running their show. And that's something I'm not sure I ever saw coming. I get Kobe had a lot of power. I'm sure Magic, Kareem, players have power, but this much with the Lakers will go on long after LeBron leaves. And yet he's got them wrapped around his finger right now.
But here's the problem, is that if this doesn't work out for Bronny, it won't be LeBron that gets tarnished. It'll be Bronny James, right? He was riding his dad's coattails. And I think it's really hard. I really feel bad for that kid. I'm telling you, man, he's, listen to Bobby's breakdown of him. He's not trending towards being an all-star. Mm-hmm. So if his dad wasn't on the team, would he be there? That's what people are saying. I'm thinking it, right? We're all thinking it. I worry for the kid. LeBron, his son plays, doesn't play. It's not going to change.
LeBron will be fine. Yeah, his legacy's already written. We know who he is, what he's done. But he may look at it as this is a part of his legacy too. That he's so great that his son even made it. Yeah. His son is so great that he can be in the NBA. Steve Phillips coming up on the Jays. Houston tonight, what do they do with this bullpen? What do they do towards the trade deadline now that we're into July? Among other things around baseball. We'll get to our best bets. Brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. There you go, Struddy. A little taste of the past. There, yeah, a little sound of the past, I should say, with the 80s tunes. You called for it, and Doogie listened. So,
nice work, Doogie.
Yeah, Doogie's on top of things, and Doogie will be calling up Steve Phillips here in a moment. See what Steve has to say about where the Jays are at. And again, you know, we mentioned it earlier with the bullpen. Romano's not in a good place. I don't know when he's going to pitch again or how that's going to go. Swanson's in the minors, and Meza was designated for assignment. Those are three arms that you were relying on heavily in the bullpen this year. And at a minimum, if not in terms of wins and losses, by the trade deadline, those are guys you might think, all right, maybe you flip, maybe you bring in some assets if you're going to start like kind of a retool on the fly or a rebuild. You want some arms out of the bullpen that are helpful. Like everyone's looking for that. All the contenders want to bolster their bullpen.
The Jays
I don't know what the Jays are going to do about that.
They're like the Jays are usually looking for that Hayes. Like,
yes.
The last couple summers, we're sitting around talking about, you know, MLB trade deadline. And it's like, okay, got to bolster the bullpen. Meanwhile, they kind of have the guys that are supposed to be the guys, but I don't know. It's, you know, guys are hurt, guys are banged up, guys aren't pitching well, and that's like, you know, another domino in the Jays season where, you know, hitting is still what it was last year, and even the starting pitching has taken a step back now.
Right. And, you know, on top of that, you have Garcia as well, who was pitching very well, you know, earlier in the year. Garcia's been on the IL here, and I guess he had an MRI recently that showed no structural damage to his elbow, but, you know, sure, it's encouraging, but what does that exactly mean? And it's an issue. Like, it's a real issue. When you're talking elbows with Romano and Garcia, and again, Swanson and Meza are not even a part of the program anymore, that bullpen speaks for itself. That's why they're struggling. We keep focusing on offense, but there's other issues here. That's why you're 8 games under 500. We're into July. Here's our TSN Blue Jay and MLB analyst, Steve Phillips. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing okay, guys. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to be with you. And you know, it's not a callous approach, but I guess they might look at it this way. Listen, the team is what they are up here in Toronto, and I think they got to turn the page. I think they got to be active come the deadline. Yet Romano's hurt, Garcia's hurt, Mays is designated for assignment, Swanson's in the minors getting blown up. Like, those would be guys you'd trade that would have value, and I don't even know how they could do that right now, Steve. Like, Mays is not an option. Swanson, no one's taken. Romano, if he's on pace for surgery, and I hope that's not the case, I don't know who's doing, you know, who's looking at him. And Garcia, the same thing if he's got an elbow issue. How do the Jays possibly overcome this, considering what's happened with this team this year, and those arms in particular, and the fact that they might not even be available for trade by the end of the month?
Yeah, I think that they're in a really bad spot. There's no denying that. And, you know, you keep holding out hope that they're going to get hot. The offense is going to get there. They're going to build in some protection, get some margin for error offensively so the bullpen can bend a little bit, be more aggressive. But, you know, the reality is that you know, everything's crumbling right now. And, you know, when you think about the bullpen, that is the area where general managers make their most mistakes, because from one year to the next, you know, you just don't know. Like, they came in thinking, okay, we've got Garcia, we've got Swanson, we've got Romano, we've got Meza, we've got balance from the left side, we've got, Cabrera as well we picked up last year. So they're looking at thinking, okay, we got a couple lefties, we got some power-armed right-handers, we're setting our bullpen. But it's so hard to quantify the impact of innings and appearances and how many times a guy gets up and warms up and sits down from one year to the next. And so, you know, it's not common that they all sort of collapse on you, which is what's happened right now, which is somewhat common with what's happened with everything else with this team. And so, you know, you can build in depth and protection, you know, to lose a guy or two. But, you know, you're talking about losing 3 or 4 guys and getting underperformance from others. And then a starting rotation that's not quite as good this year as it was last year. So you're using the bullpen a little bit more than you did. And so you got more innings and the workload's a little higher, and then you're not scoring as many runs. So the margin for error is less, and you've got no ability to give up anything, or you're going to lose a game. And so they've all sort of fed off of each other. And it looks pretty dire right now. It looks pretty bleak. You know, they're 8 games out of the third wild card spot and 8 games under 500. And so, I mean, they've got such a hole to climb out of. And when you think about, well, what's the hope that they're going to be able to do it? Well, you've got a decimated bullpen and offense is underperforming, not a great defensive team. And the starting pitching is not quite as good as it was. And so there's not a whole lot of hope that makes me think that by the end of July that this team's going to be back into a playoff spot.
Steve, what's the best course of action for Bo Bichette as far as, his future with this team? It's not like he's exactly playing the best baseball of his career right now. So theoretically, you're not exactly selling high. And if he was playing well, you would think the team would be playing well around him, so you'd want to keep him. I don't know, where do you fall on what the right thing to do with Bo Bichette is?
Yeah. So, I think both Vladdy and Bo are somewhat similar in that, they were the guys that you started this run with and you were going to build the team around. What I find really interesting is, if I had no inclination whatsoever to trade them, I would tell them that. I would tell them that. I would tell them, look, you're not moving anywhere. Because I think when you get to where the team's underperforming, you're not quite performing, and you haven't signed a contract, and it feels like you're going to be a seller. As a player, you feel like you're going to get moved, and you're looking over your shoulder all the time. You're answering questions about it all the time. If, in fact, they're not going to trade them, they should tell them they're not going to be traded. And I think it would take a burden of pressure off of them that might actually spark their level of performance. It's like last year when the Angels told Ohtani that they weren't going to trade him at the deadline. They were going to keep him. The next game he went out there and threw a shutout, and then in the next second game of the doubleheader hit 2 home runs in his first 2 at-bats. And it's like it takes a burden off of you when you're told that you're not going to be traded, that you can just focus on where you are instead of trying to figure out, well, what's happening next, that uncertainty. So, and the fact that they haven't told them that makes me think that possibly there is some ability to trade them. I know Ross Atkins had said before on MLB Network Radio that they put no energy into the idea of trading those guys and that people call, but that's other people calling them, and they was disappointed that somebody would have portrayed it that they would consider moving them. But, I think right now they've got to really take a strong look in the mirror to try to figure out where they are. Do they want to give this another run next year with this window? And are you willing to accept draft picks if that's the case? And what you can do is you can let the market dictate for you some part of that, where you're not going to shop Bo Bichette, but what you do is you take phone calls and listen. You can listen on Vladdy to figure out whether you think it's a deal that makes sense for where you want to go next. Now, if I'm the Jays, I'm not going to a complete rebuild. I think that's absurd. I don't know what's necessary. You've got some pitching that'll function for you this year and next year, and so I would listen. And if somebody wants to blow my socks off and do something, then I would consider doing that, still with the intention of winning next year. But I'm not going to shop those guys around like I'm desperate to get rid of them.
Steve, of the teams that are just on the outside looking at a wild card spot in the American League, like, Boston, Houston, Tampa, of those, 3 or 4 teams, which one do you see where it's kind of an easy fix to add something at the trade deadline that maybe boosts them into a playoff spot?
Yeah, so I think Houston is getting there. They've had Hunter Brown, their young starting pitcher, I think he's got 8 straight quality starts. He's 6-0 in his last 7 starts. He's got a sub-2 ERA, almost barely a 1 ERA. He's locked in. Ronel Blanco's locked in. He's dominated the Blue Jays a couple times. Verlander's coming back. They have Luis Garcia coming back. They have Lance McCullers coming back. So I think that they're a team that they get a first baseman, to replace Jose Abreu's lack of production there. And I think they could really, really be a tough team to beat. And they're already making their charge. They've won 10 out of 11. They've cut the deficit behind the Mariners now to just 3 games. Their veteran status is starting to come through. They're hungry. They're playing well. They're positive. I think they're probably the team that is the closest to it. For the Red Sox, they're doing it with a lot of breaking balls this year, and I worry about what that staff's going to look like and how their arms are going to be hanging come August and September. They're going to need to add some pitching both in the rotation and the bullpen. So is everybody else, though, right? I mean, that's the other thing, is everybody who's out there is going to want the same thing with it. Tampa Bay, I think that, they don't feel like a team that's going to make moves to add. I think they look at this market and think, this could be a year that they could take a step backwards, trade Zach Eflin, trade Randy Arozarena, trade Yandy Diaz and reconfigure and retool their roster, because they do have some young guys ready to break in next year. So I would suspect they're probably less likely to buy and add to their team, the Rays. I do think the Astros probably the one that makes the most moves.
With Steve Phillips, we just saw the Yankees roll through town, and like it was a strange series, a 4-game series, and either the Jays won big or the Yankees won big, and Judge is putting up just phenomenal numbers. I mean, it's incredible what he's doing, and that was after a slow start. And Soto's obviously fit well. Now they got Cole back. Yet in New York, as you know, they're always anxious, and there's always nerves, and there's always this belief that maybe they're not deep enough. And I can't really dispute that. The lineup they fielded on Thursday, I think it was the first game, LeMahieu was out. They had a couple of injuries. It was thin. Like after you got through the first few with Volpe and Judge and Soto, it was thin. In this, based on what we're talking about here with the trade deadline upcoming and teams adding, where do you see Cashman and the Yankees going here in the next few weeks?
Yeah, so they're interesting because they have just enough pitching and just enough offense and just enough bullpen, and they're getting a little thin now because they've got Stanton, Rizzo out, LeMahieu in and out of that lineup. They benched Gleyber Torres for a few days, and Soto's hand was sore, and so Judge was out of the lineup for a day, and they're getting a little bit thin, and so. A Cody Bellinger would be a great fit. He could play some first base, could play some outfield for them. Vladdy would be a good fit if the Blue Jays want to trade him. And again, I think that they also need to watch their pitching because Cole's back, and he was better his last start, but Rodon's been crushed his last 3 starts. Luis Gil has been crushed his last 3 starts. Stroman's been, hit and miss and throwing temper tantrums on the mound a little bit and, showing up as teammates that they've got to manage through that some, and they're a little thin in the pen. And so, they just need offense, starting pitching, and bullpen. That's all. And here's the thing: like they've got like the second best record in America, or third best record in the American League right now. So they have rich people problems for sure. But I don't think they have to go big. I just think they need, if they go big at anything, I think it would be probably a first baseman. Then I would go with even a back end of the rotation starter, just somebody you can count on to take the ball every 5th day, and then fortify the bullpen a little bit more with a quality left-hander.
Yep. Well, we're into July, so there'll be a lot of this chatter as we get through the month and get closer to the trade deadline. Jays, Astros tonight. It should be a good one. Enjoy that and the other games, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you, Steve.
You bet, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB and Blue Jay analyst. The Jays, they got some decisions to make. The team is what it is. They played a lot of ball games. I think most people understand it's not going to change. They're 8 games under 500. They're 8 games out of a wild card. There's 3 wild card spots now. Houston's better. Boston's better. Tampa's better. The champs. You got Texas, who haven't been great, but they still have more talent. And if and when healthy, I think are going to finish ahead of the Blue Jays as well. So too many teams to jump over. You got to turn the page. You got to figure out who you're going to trade, but who do you have available?
Well, and what are you cheering for right now if you're a Jays fan? Like, what do you want to have happen? Do you want to see them win games? Not like, it doesn't seem like that's happening easily. You want guys going out the door? Like, what's coming back in that makes you optimistic about, the future and how quick they can turn things around? I think they're in it's a weird spot to be right now if you're a Jays fan. I don't feel like you know exactly what you wish for.
Yeah, like the term retool is scary in sports, right? Like it's kind of lipstick on a pig comment. Like it can work. Now, you got to get lucky. You got to retool and almost everything's got to hit. You got to keep the right guys. You got to have some guys fall through the cracks in other organizations that you pluck basically for free that hit. You got to have prospects come up that stay healthy. Like there's just so many things that have to go right. You can do it, and a lot of teams want to go that route because success was right there. Like it's not like the Jays have been awful for 15 years. They've been a really good team. They were in the playoffs the last 2 years. The year before they had 90 wins and they didn't make it by a game. Like they've been really good for a while. But retooling, if you get it wrong with a retool, all you've done is just delayed the inevitable. You've delayed what you were going to do anyway, which is blow it up and restart. So that's tough.
Isn't it crazy that, when Anthopoulos was here, the guys that came in basically, gave him a tongue lashing as far as how the cupboards were and, how he left things. Feels like it's not much different, but the team's not good. So
exactly. They're not good,
it's worse.
and they have no farm system.
Now.
That's a problem. Yeah. I don't know.
I think you got to evaluate what's going on here. This is just it's not what anyone expected. I think you got to do a self-evaluation and honestly, what have we done wrong? Because something you can blame it on the players, you can point at this guy or that guy, but it's the whole group from the top down.
Yeah, the whole organization's got to own this one.
Sturdy, I used to do a self-evaluation after some of my bad games. It didn't mean I came back and played a good game.
That's valid.
Well, and that's part of the. Well, I mean, it's a little bit different for an individual player, but for a group, if you're not winning all the time, what's going on here? Why are we just missing out on a couple runs? It's. I don't know. I just always think self-evaluation is a really strong tool.
I love to evaluate. I'm with you, man. I'll evaluate all day. Won't change a thing.
An honest evaluation.
Yes.
Not where it could be this.
But isn't that almost impossible? It's never going to be a subjective evaluation because if it's Shapiro and Atkins, it's their work. It's their team.
You had your
guys.
guy, right? You do the evaluation. I had my guy on goals 1 and 3.
Right.
What were you guys doing?
Yes. It's almost like it's got to be above them. It's on the owner. The owner's got to figure out, do we have the right people? Do they know what they're doing? Is this a one-off? Is it going to be better next year if you pluck this player, that player, that player? Listen, a blow-it-up rebuild type thing is terrifying. The Raptors are going through it basically right now. It was tough being a Raptor fan this year. It's going to be tough next year, and I think it'll be tough the year after that. I think it's going to be tough for a few years where they're really going to be difficult to watch. But you have hope in a scenario like that everything will work and it'll pay off 3 years, 4 years down the road. No guarantees, but you have hope.
20% chance you're the Pistons, and you
that's
just never
the problem.
get
is that it could get ugly, and you're just in a perpetual state of just darkness. And that's terrifying.
A Toronto sports fan, right? Those two teams, you got the Leafs retooling. I mean, it's a tough time, right?
Are they retooling?
At least you have. What are they? The Mississauga FC soccer team? You got them.
Okay. Well, yeah. Did you see the goal they gave up the other night to lose that game?
No, I did not. I was not watching.
Probably watching
highlights.
the Elks, who are
probably surprising you.
Yeah. You should. What's up with your Elks? Are they the worst team in the league? They're 0-4. Although Winnipeg's 0-4 too.
Yeah, they're having a tough start. Start to the year, but I think it sounds like they're going to get a new owner. So.
Everyone says the same thing, as if that means anything. It's such
I don't know.
Hey, new owner though. Who cares? You're brutal. The team stinks.
What you've been doing isn't working. Let's change it up. Get a new owner in there. Splash that CFL cash around, right? Let's
get some evaluations and press conferences going on.
That's right. Self-evaluation.
Oh, I love a press conference. Yeah. Nothing like a press conference and a parade.
Gotta have it. Gotta have it. All right, we'll come back with our best bets and wrap up a busy afternoon. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm not going to play a win or a loss tonight or even the total tonight. All about props. Springer has been hot lately. George Springer, shout out to him. He's been better recently going up against his former team. He's won a World Series against them. I got Springer to record a hit. Vladdy's been torching teams. Vladdy to record a hit tonight. And Barrios over the number. Total strikeouts 4.5 tonight. So Springer to record a hit, Vladdy to record a hit, and Barrios to be cooking tonight on the mound. Over 4.5 strikeouts. That parlay paying plus 204. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus, physically located in Ontario. All right. So the Euros are into the quarters here. And we got a couple of really good matches coming up. Really good matchups. And Canada's in action on Friday night. And it doesn't sound good. Tajon Buchanan, it looks like it's a really gruesome leg injury that he suffered in training today, too. They're just practicing down there in Dallas. That sucks, man. He's a really good player. He's playing over in Europe. I think he's in Serie A. I believe he is. And this sounds like it could be an injury that sets him back for a long time.
Jeez. Not good. Don't like hearing that.
Not good. Not good. But it's been a fun one today. Appreciate you guys doing this. I think we'll be doing this more, I believe, throughout the week. And, we got a lot of things cooking here, boys. Like we said, we're here. We're working. We're doing our thing. That's all that matters. So appreciate you guys doing this today. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out, everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate it. Let's see if we can get through this. Can we step in and close this show out? Here we go. Been an absolute pleasure, boys. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.